Okay, so next, grab your PS Vita again, by the way, if you made it. Great job. You're killing it right now, because you just made it through the hardest part, which was putting the wires on onto the lights themselves. So I got mine right here. Again, I don't think you'll be able to... Yeah, there you go, you can see it. So I got mine on. I denoted my positive with the black piece of tape. So again, if you made it this far, the hardest part is over. The rest is pretty easy, considering that part. So at this point, grab your flux and get a little bit on your finger. This is just how I do it. You can do it, with a cotton tip, cotton swab or whatever. But what I do is I just take a little bit on my finger and I just rub it onto the point of interest. That was way too much. What was I thinking? Jesus Christ. Okay, so don't use that much. Use just a tiny amount. And then find an anchor point. For me, again, I'm just going to be using the point that's right next to it, which is one of the anchors of the points of the memory card unit. There we go. So you can see kind of on the side there, that's the point I'm going to be using right there. And then solder your wires. And then at that point, we'll be doing the trigger mod part of this. So I'll solder my wires real quick. Again, best practice is to just take a little bit of solder and tin your points first, just so you got a little bit of leaded solder on there, so that things solder on a bit easier. So there we go. Got that there. And then put this right over here. And we have some leaded solder. There we go. All right, so I'll be right back, and we'll move on to the next step. All right, I'm back, and we have it all soldered up. I'll turn off the lights, so I'll show you roughly how bright they are. These guys, since we went on the high end of the spectrum at 3.2 volts, they're pretty friggin' bright. Again, for me, not a bad thing. I like it bright. So we got it all soldered up, and we're good to go. What I did was I put a little bit of glue just to make sure the wires don't come unsoldered right at the base. If you're going to be using your points for the ground here at the memory card, just be careful when you glue it, because when I glued it, I used a little bit too much and it went into the memory card slot and almost destroyed it. So do be careful if you decide to do that. Take it from me, because I just spent the last like 15 minutes scraping excess glue off the contact pads in there. So oops, I guess we're all kind of learning as we go. But we got this all good to go. So now I will show you the trigger preparation. Take one of your triggers. This process is the same for both triggers. And take your X-Acto knife. Now, where you're going to want to do this, getting situated, where you're going to want to do this is right, you'll see kind of where, let's see if I can focus a little bit here. Wrong way. There we go. You'll see right where the clear part of the trigger intercepts with the not transparent part. You want to go a little bit above that, so right about here, where it starts to hit the transparent part. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make a hole, actually. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your X-Acto knife, and you're actually just going to do this. You're going to kind of mark the spot a little bit, and I don't think you can even see it yet, but you're just going to actually kind of grind out or make a little space here with your see, you want to be careful. I almost poked myself. Make a little hole here. You're just going to want to scrape out and go in little circles. I've found is the best way to do it. Make a little hole, because we're going to be putting the LED face forward into that hole that we make with our X-Acto knife. If you want to use a different tool to scrape out the plastic to make a little spot for the LED, you can. This is the way that I do it. If you have a better way of doing it, by all means, go for it. Again, this is just the way that I do it. So when I'm done scraping away, it does take a little bit of time. I'll show you the finished product. So now that you're done scraping your holes, I don't know if you can quite see mine, but you want your holes to be roughly big enough so that these sit pretty flush with it, because you don't want to be bumping your fingers into it. So like for instance this one, like that one sits pretty flush with the trigger. Yep. So you want to test that just periodically as you're scraping them out. Just take your trigger and just kind of put it up to it and see, hey, if I put that in there, would it sit flush? And right now both do. Let's test the other one. Perfect. They both sit just about flush. So at this point, what did I do here? Did I turn it on? I guess I did. Anyways, what you're going to do at this point is you're going to take a dab of your glue and you're going to put it into the hole that, oh, there we go, sorry. Put it into the hole that you just made, and then you're going to take your LED and put it in, and it will light up your trigger. So when I'm done with that, I'll come back and we'll move on to the final assembly. So now that you've successfully put in your LEDs into the triggers, I would recommend also putting a dab of super glue also on the outside to protect it, as well as keep the wires in place so that when we place them they don't move around and eventually maybe break or something. So just put a dab of glue in this around this area right here, and do it in the same over there. So when you want to put the triggers back into place, what we're going to do is we're actually going to release these ribbon cables for the trigger buttons and run the wires underneath as to prevent anything from happening, such as these pushing into it and disconnecting them. So we're going to lift these tabs and pull out the ribbon cables. A little bit tricky. I'll just use my fingernail. There we go. Pull that out. There we go. And do the same for the other side. Pull it out. There we go. And then we're going to run our cables, for instance on this side, we're going to run our cables underneath that ribbon cable and then put our triggers into place. And you bend the magnet wire as needed. Again, I highly suggest the magnet wire because it's also very bendy. You can bend it into how you want it to be and it will pretty much stay that way. So there we go. Keep bending it into place. And there we go. There we go. And it should just drop right into place. Ah, come on, buddy. There we go. There we go. There we go. And then we have one in, and you do the same for the other side. We'll run it underneath here. Flip that around like that. Sorry about that. You guys can't see, so it's underneath that ribbon cable. Get it in there. There we go. Bend that back. And there we go. It's in place. So now, that's pretty much it. You replace the battery, replace the bracket, and I'll show you the final reassembly. I guess we'll just do it right now. Fuck it. Alright, so put the battery back. So we'll put it like this. Again, you can move the wire as you need to. Put the battery back in place. We'll leave it unconnected for now since the bracket goes on first before we connect it. Then we go like this. Okay. Alright, so that's all in place. Wires are good. Good. I'm going to make sure that the wires are also not over these contacts because then you won't get sound. In this case, we're good. So we put this back like this. There we go. And there we go. And at this point, once you get the battery connected, go ahead and test the Vita just to make sure that your trigger mod is working. So we're going to turn it on. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and fully reassemble this guy. Basically, it's just these two silver screws right here. And then when you do the ribbon cable, for this part, just keep it close and use your tweezers. Keep it about either 90 degrees or about like maybe 60 degrees, and then just take your tweezers and put them back in like that. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Again, if you need help disassembling and also don't forget to reconnect your ribbon cables as well. But if you need help with disassembly and reassembly, I'll have that link in the tutorial to some other tutorial on how to open it and close it. It's pretty easy if you've disassembled electronics before, but if you're new to it, then go ahead and use that. But I'm not going to cover it in this tutorial. All right, I'll be right back with the finished product. So I got it all reassembled, and it's time for the final test. So here we go. Here we go. There it is. Look at how bright that is. Wow, it's super bright. Again, that depends on what voltage you used. I went on the max end of mine, but Yep, there it is, and there you have it. That is the LED, the surface mount LED trigger mod tutorial for the PSP 2000. If you want to go ahead and try this on a PS Vita 1000, it should still be the same, same procedure. I've never done it on one. Honestly, I think it looks a lot cooler on the 2000 series, just because it's thinner, slicker, you know, and you get these cool LEDs. On the 1000, you get the LED here already, so I figured I wouldn't try it on that. Also, again, honestly I prefer the 2000, but that's personal preference. If anybody makes one for the Vita 1000, please post a tutorial or videos or tweet at me or something, because I would love to see a 1000 trigger mod tutorial. I just don't have the time to do it these days. I really had to make the time to do this one, but yeah. So that's it. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave a comment. I'll try my best to get to you, otherwise somebody else will hopefully chime in. And yeah, and thanks for watching. Feel free to follow me on Instagram or Twitter. I'm more active on Twitter than I am on Instagram these days, but feel free to reach out to me there or follow me there. And thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll make another one of these at some point for something else cool that I think of. Later.